January 27, 2025. By the closing bell, the most valuable company on Earth has just lost more money in a single day than any company in the history of the stock market. $589 billion. Gone in an afternoon. The company, NVIDIA, the trigger, a small Chinese AI lab, just proved you could build a world-class AI model for a fraction of the price everyone assumed you needed. Cheaper, more efficient. So why did more efficient just torch $589 billion? Because a 19th century economist ran this exact experiment 160 years ago, and efficiency did not behave the way anyone expected. Rewind. London, 1865. Britain's entire economy runs on coal. Coal for the factories, the ships, the trains stitching the country together. And Britain is nervous. Economist William Stanley Jevons has just published a book warning that the nation's coal reserves are finite, and industrial growth is burning through them faster every year. But there's a reason for hope. Engineers keep making steam engines more efficient. The newest designs do the same work while burning a fraction of the coal older engines needed. The logic seems airtight. More efficient engines, less coal burned per job. Multiply that across the whole country, and Britain's coal problem should start solving itself. Simple math, or so everyone in 1865 believed. Except that's not what happened. As engines got more efficient, Britain's total coal consumption didn't shrink. It exploded, climbing higher, decade after decade. Jevons found the flaw in the obvious logic. Making steam power more efficient made it dramatically cheaper to run. And things that get cheaper don't just get used the same amount for less money. They get used for entirely new things. Factories that couldn't justify steam power before suddenly could. Railways expanded. The fleet of coal-burning ships multiplied. Efficiency didn't shrink the appetite for coal. It fed it. Except that's not what happened. As engines got more efficient, Britain's total coal consumption didn't shrink. It exploded, climbing higher, decade after decade. Jevons found the flaw in the obvious logic. Making steam power more efficient made it dramatically cheaper to run. And things that get cheaper don't just get used the same amount for less money. They get used for entirely new things. Factories that couldn't justify steam power before suddenly could. Railways expanded. The fleet of coal-burning ships multiplied. Efficiency didn't shrink the appetite for coal. It fed it. You can watch the same pattern play out again and again. Car engines today are dramatically more fuel efficient than 50 years ago. Gas consumption should be way down. Except cars also got bigger, commutes got longer, and cheaper to run vehicles meant people simply drove more. The savings got eaten alive by how much more we chose to drive. Same story with light. An LED uses a fraction of the electricity an old incandescent bulb needed. But instead of using less electricity on lighting overall, we just lit up more things. Building facades, billboards, screens that never turn off. Efficient light didn't mean less light. It meant light everywhere. Which brings us back to that Monday in January 2025. A Chinese AI lab called DeepSeek said it had trained a frontier-level AI model for under $6 million, using older, export-restricted chips, while leading U.S. labs were reportedly spending well over $100 million to train a single model. Some analysts pushed back on whether that number told the whole story. But the direction was impossible to ignore, a real, meaningful jump in AI efficiency. And to investors, the math seemed obvious. Cheaper training means less demand for NVIDIA's expensive chips, and less need for the power-hungry data centers running them. By the closing bell, NVIDIA's stock had fallen 17%, wiping out $589 billion in value. More than double the previous record for the worst single-day loss any company had ever had. It dragged the rest of the chip sector down with it. All because the market assumed more efficient AI could only mean one thing: needing less of everything AI runs on. But here's the twist the market hadn't priced in fast enough. Microsoft's own CEO, Satya Nadella, publicly reacted to the meltdown by pointing straight at the very paradox this video is about. Because he runs one of the biggest AI operations on the planet, and he already knew how this story goes. Make AI cheaper to run, and you don't shrink the market for AI, you blow it wide open. Every product that couldn't justify the cost of AI before suddenly can. Every company embeds a chatbot, an agent, a co-pilot into everything it makes. Cheaper AI doesn't mean less compute gets used. It means compute gets used for 1,000 new things at once. And the data backs them up. By the International Energy Agency's own 2024 numbers, the world's data centers were using about 2% of all global electricity, and that share was on pace to double by 2026. That's more electricity than the entire country of Canada uses in a year. 40 million people's worth of power. So how did the biggest tech companies respond to more efficient AI? Not by building less power infrastructure, by locking in some of the largest nuclear power deals in history. Multi-decade contracts, reactor restarts, gigawatts of new capacity. These aren't the moves of companies betting efficiency will shrink their power bill. They're betting it's about to explode. Now, to be fair, efficiency doesn't always backfire this hard. Economists call the broader pattern the rebound effect, and Jevons Paradox is really just its most extreme case, when the rebound is so big it completely overtakes the original savings. Sometimes a more efficient technology genuinely does cut total consumption. It depends on how much hidden demand was sitting there, waiting for the price to drop. But history's biggest, most transformative technologies, coal power, cars, and now AI, keep landing on the same side of that paradox. So here's the takeaway. Whether you're an investor, building a company, or just trying to make sense of where things are headed, the next time somebody tells you an efficiency breakthrough is about to shrink a market, don't take it at face value. Ask the Jevons question instead. How much demand has been sitting on the sidelines this whole time, just waiting for the price to drop? Because sometimes making something 10 times cheaper doesn't shrink the market by 90%. It grows the market by 10 times instead. 160 years ago, a Victorian economist looked at a coal ledger and figured out something that still governs how server farms get financed today. That's the thing about the best economic ideas. They don't expire. They just wait for the next technology to prove them right all over again. If you like finding the pattern behind the headlines, that's what this channel is for. Subscribe and tell me in the comments, is AI going to follow the coal story or break it?